We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
You've been listening to the opening strains of Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, as I do my best to play DJ here, and crossfade from the intro into Stravinsky's Rite of Spring to my own voice. And as a result, if you can just give me one moment of your time, I'm going to take this transition to another level as I begin to jack in directly into your consciousness via a potentially more intimate form of voice communication. Hi there, this is Robert Phoenix. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. Happy spring to everyone. I'm actually working on a piece right now on the Rite of Spring in Stravinsky, which debuted in Paris on the 29th of May in 1913. And it's interesting that the Rite of Spring would take place on the 29th of May. Why wouldn't it take place on the first day of spring? Like, well, maybe today. There's a reason why, and it is far more esoteric than you might think or know. So We're going to get into that a little bit on today's show. I will also be doing some free readings. I'm flying solo today. We've been graced with a number of really cool guests over the last few weeks on this show. Last week we had La Fée Farrar, who has just completed her book about twin flames. And we've had some really good guests. So today it's just me and you and the spiritual energies that course between us. It is the first day of spring. It's the first day of Aries. We are now in Aries. We've got Mars in Aries. We've got Uranus in Aries. Here comes Aries. Are you ready for Aries? Oh, by the way, the Bride of Spring, if you go back into the chart for that day, the true node was at 0 degrees Aries. These things do not go unnoticed by people who create events, stage events, make ritual. It's all part of an algorithm, an esoteric and an occult algorithm to fortify and energize the events themselves. There are no mistakes, none whatsoever. And as we get into the show a little bit today, you'll find out a little bit more about what I'm talking about as I break down one of the key figures of the Rite of Spring and why it took place when it did. So we have all this Aries energy in the air, and I'm going to tell you, this has been an intense morning for me. And it's been an intense morning because I've had some very powerful exchanges with people that have highlighted how difficult it is on this planet right now on many different levels. I had one person intimate to me that they were considering suicide. I had another person tell me that they're now dealing with cancer. I had another person share with me a very powerful dream that foretold that they might have to deal with cancer. This is all within a span of a couple hours this morning. And it's interesting being a semi-public figure. I mean, look, let's face it, I'm no Alex Jones. I'm no George Norrie. Those guys are really out there. They're big public figures. But, I am kind of, in my own kind of humble way, a public figure. I mean, people listen to this show. So I have connections with people all around the world. And sometimes it's a little difficult to maintain a really personal connection with people while I'm trying to sort out my own life and make sure that, I've got my shit straight, right? So if somehow, somewhere, some way along the way, if we have a personal connection and if I don't respond to an email right away, it's not because I'm dissing you or I don't love you. It's really just due to the fact that I get busy sometimes and I've got a lot on my plate. And I don't mind, having personal relations with people. It's one of the reasons why I do this. I've got 4 planets in my 11th house: Mercury, Moon, Venus, and Neptune. The world is my friend, or people around the world are my friends. So, they're more than my friends; they're like my family. So, I'm sharing this with you not because I don't want to stay in contact with people. I'm just telling you that there are times that I get buried with things. So if I don't get back to you right away, don't take it personally. I do my best not to take it personally either. I'll give you a story. I've approached Cliff High at least half a dozen times in the past 2 months to come onto the show. And every time I approach him, something comes up. And he's got issues with his wife's health, and there's things that are challenging for him. I'm not going to take that personally. He's on other people's show. Well, you know what? That's fine. It worked out. It was the right time and the right place. It's like the less that we take things personally, the better off we are. It's one of the 4 agreements. Don't take things personally. I know it's hard. We get triggered. Our abandonment issues come up. Nobody loves us. All those, child fears get stirred up when we don't get the kind of response that we're looking for in the world. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not the world's responsibility to respond to you in the way that you need it to at times. It's just not. And I know it's hard for some of us to understand. But on the other hand, if we can remain conscious, if we can remain aware, if we can do our best to keep lines of communication open, we can get through snafus and glitches and have really more than decent exchanges. And I'm not just talking about me and you or whoever, just people in general. Do your best not to take things personally. I'm sure I'll be called upon to practice my little preach here at some point soon. That's the way life is, isn't it? You put it out there and it comes right back to you. So let's get into the rite of spring just for a little bit. It's an interesting piece. And as I mentioned, it took place on May 29th, 1913. If you add the numbers together, 29, 2 plus 9 is 11. 1913 equals 22. You have essentially the 11, 22, right? 29, 22. Now you throw the May in there, so that's 33, right? You throw the May in there, which is the 5th month, which would make it 38. And what happens? It comes back to 11. So you're dealing with master numbers all the way around. The performance itself was planned well in advance, and the musical mind behind the performance was, of course, Igor Stravinsky. But there were a number of other people involved in the actual performance. And these are some of the heavyweight artists and visionaries of our time. The choreographer of the Rite of Spring, Le Sacre du Printemps, was George Balanchine, one of the great ballet directors and choreographers of the 20th century. The person who did the sets, the painting of the sets, was Vasily Kandinsky, a great painter and an esoteric painter. At that, Kandinsky had some very interesting theories about vibration and color. The lead dancer for the Rite of Spring was none other than Nijinsky. Nijinsky, again, considered one of the great dancers of our time. And the visionary, not the musical mastermind, but the visionary behind the Rite of Spring was a fellow by the name of Nicholas Roerich. And if you have done any kind of research at any level, you'll find that Nicholas Roerich is one of the most pivotal and influential figures in the 20th century. Now, Roerich was a dyed-in-the-wool theosophist. He was from Russia. He grew up with money, so he had some kind of a royal tint to him. He traveled a lot, and he was a painter. He was a pretty good painter. And one of the things that Roerich claimed was that he was in possession of something called the Chintamani stone. And the Chintamani stone is also known by a number of different names. It's also been known as the Philosopher's Stone. And the mythology behind the Chintamani stone is that it actually descended to Earth from the heavens, but specifically from a planet that orbited the star Sirius. And the Chintamani stone also shows up in various other places. But the sort of the abridged version of the mythology of the Chintamani stone is that the the being that wore it, and it was really, the Chintamani stone is only part of the stone. There's other parts of the stone. It got divided into at least 4 parts. But it was a jewel, it was a gem on the crown of Lucifer. And as he descended from heaven, and in this case it would be considered Sirius, that the stone was split into 4 pieces. And one of the pieces of the stone is supposedly in the Kaaba in Mecca. Another piece of the stone is purportedly in the hands of the Scots. And the last time that it had been brought out into public was when Queen Elizabeth was ordained as Queen of England. Apparently she sat upon the Philosopher's Stone, or the Chintamani Stone, or part of it. Another part of the stone supposedly went, or was in the hands of King Solomon, and likely would have been a version of the Seal of Solomon. And then theoretically, it was in the hands of Nicholas Roerich. Now, what's interesting is that there is some debate as to whether or not Roerich actually had the Chintamani Stone. The Chintamani Stone was green in color. It's also been related to the Emerald Tablets, which came from Atlantis and are featured prominently in conjunction with the Hermes Trismegistus. So there's a lot of esoteric energy and lore behind the stones. The stone itself has also been linked to the Holy Grail, that it is the Holy Grail. And there's a painting by Dante Rossetti where I believe it is Mary Magdalene, and she is holding the chalice, the Grail chalice, and the center of the chalice is green, which is supposedly an esoteric hint that the chalice is the Chintamani stone. So Nicholas Roerich proclaimed that he had this stone, that he had gone to Shambhala on one of his many trips to Tibet to reunite the Chintamani stone with the great spiritual hierarchy that dwelled in Shambhala and would descend onto the plains of man in Tibet. But he often walked around with this little casket with this Tibetan cloth, and he would walk around with this thing. And this is what he proclaimed Chintamani stone was in this casket. So this gave Nicholas Roerich a great deal of power to said to be in possession of this stone. I mean, think about it. You know, the lore of the stone was that once you got it, you could see into the future, you could see into the past. It would accelerate your spiritual evolutionary powers. I mean, this stone was like, I don't know, like the red pill in the Matrix or something, you know? So anyway, he used this stone to gain an entrance into the government. Rourke was almost like Rasputin in some ways. He was like a more polished Rasputin, much more polished. And he got in tight with a guy by the name of Henry Wallace. And Henry Wallace was Secretary of Agriculture, and he studied with Nicholas Roerich. He was an adept. Henry Wallace, interestingly enough, was born in a place called Orient, Iowa. And he was born on October 9th. Nicholas Roerich was born on October 7th, so they had conjunct suns. They were close. This is the kind of relationship you would have with a conjunct sun, that kind of closeness. And it's clear that Wallace almost worshipped. That Wallace almost worshipped Nicholas Roerich. Now you ask, well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, Henry Wallace eventually became vice president and vice president under Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And it's under Roosevelt that the dollar bill gets a facelift. And who's the guy that is running the change, the symbolic change of the dollar bill? It's Henry Wallace. And who's Henry Wallace getting his inspiration from? It's our friend Nicholas Roerich. So all the symbols on the dollar bill, essentially, they're ancient symbols, but they were assembled there by Henry Wallace through Nicholas Roerich. The Novo Ordo Seclorum, or Novo Ordo Seclorum, on the dollar bill stands for essentially the new order of the ages. Well, at that time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was working on the New Deal. And the New Deal and the Novo Ordo Seclorum are synonymous. They go hand in glove. That's what it refers to. And the New Deal would be the redistribution of wealth through the intervention of governmental agencies that are staffed by quote-unquote elite. Right? These are the best of the best, the men and women called to serve as the interface between literally God and man as it relates to governance. So this is why Nicholas Roerich is an important figure, because it's him, it's Nicholas Roerich himself that has his fingerprints all over our money. And the money is a symbolic carrier of value and worth, and also the entrainment that we experience on a number of different levels. So we've been passing these Federal Reserve bucks all around really since the 1940s, late 1930s, 1940s. I think Roerich died in 47. Been passing around since then, and literally kind of forwarding a type of script. And it's interesting because money is called script, right? It's another term for money. But there's also a script within the money. And the script within the money is the unfoldment of the new age, or the dawn of the new day, which is, by the way, the rite of spring. We are literally occupying this moment in time as the dawn of a new day. It is the dawn of a new day in terms of where we are with the precession of the equinoxes, the vernal equinox. It's here, it's now, it's the dawn of a new day. And that's the script within the dollar bill. And that's the script that Nicholas Roerich brought to this country. It's interesting, his whole thing, right? So if you continue to just unfold this, what they were working for and what they've been working towards was and is the emergence of the Christ being. Now, the Christ being supersedes Christ Jesus. And the Christ being has been objectified and classified as Maitreya. And if you get into Benjamin Creme and his whole Share International stuff, at some of his talks, he'll tell you that Jesus was not the Christ, that he was only the Christ for 3 years. And that it was Maitreya who Jesus studied with and from. And so that when the Christ returns, not when Jesus returns, but when Christ returns, the Christ consciousness returns, it will be in the form of Maitreya, the true Christ, and not Jesus, which is an interesting thought. This goes back to Gnosticism. It's all Gnosticism. And when you get into the Garden of Eden, the true God is the serpent, and then the false God is the God who created the garden, because that God was not going to allow those crazy kids in the garden to have any kind of knowledge. The serpent turns everything upside down and says, here, have the apple. It's good. You'll like it. And then, of course, they're cast out. And as a result, the Serpentarians, the Gnostics, have been pissed off at God ever since. How could you kick us out of that garden, you bastard? So here we are. It's the dawn of a new day. It is 3:20. And where are we? Where are we with all of this? What's happening? What's going on? How are we moving along this circular path? Well, if you look at what's happening, you can see that everything that's taking place right now is still the unfoldment and the fulfillment of what took place during the New Deal. Oh, by the way, if you go back in time, you go back to May 29th, Rourke was the guy. And I don't want to get away from the Rite of Spring. I got to stay with this really quickly. I'm going to go back to it. Rourke's the guy that brings it all together. For the Rite of Spring, the dollar bill, and he is the common thread throughout all of this. And in fact, Henry Wallace was going to run for president, and he was busted by two writers. They had found these letters that went back and forth from Wallace to Rourke. And you can only imagine what was being written in those letters. It was all esoteric, arcanum. And these guys is basically, how do you answer this? How do you answer this? How do you answer this? And at that time, America was a very Christian nation. So any kind of involvement with the occult or the arcane or anything that would resemble black magic, that would get you kicked off the presidential tour real fast. And that's what happened to Wallace. H.L. Mencken, super smart, super tough guy, pressed him hard on it, and it was the downfall of Henry Wallace. So you could imagine now, who would care now? People would be clapping. Oh, thank God. Look, he's doing the pyramid over his left eye. Obama's cool. Yeah, man. Obama's quoting Eckhart Tolle. This is great. Obama's on Oprah. Awesome. You see how far we've come? It's like a few letters get out about this guy's esoteric relationship with Nicholas Rourke, and he's ruined. Today, he celebrated. This is how it's evolved. This is where we are now. We're at a point in time where we are seeing the externalization of the hierarchy, which comes from theosophy. But let's go back in time and let's go to the Rite of Spring. It's very interesting. I already talked about it was on May 29th, that at that time the sun was at 7 degrees Gemini and Mercury was at 2 degrees Gemini and Saturn was at 7 degrees Gemini. So an exact Saturn to Sun conjunction, Saturn, of course, being esoterically Satan, right? That's what Saturn is, Saturn, Satan. Jupiter is Jove, Jehovah. These are the kind of mythological aspects of Saturn and Jupiter. So we have Saturn, or Satan, yoked to the Sun. Sun is very important. Exact at 7 degrees. 7, again, clearly a mystical number. And it's not just mystical. I mean, if you look at 7 in terms of its actual geometry, you have the flat line at the top, which is heaven, right? And then you have the curved line coming down, or sometimes it's a straight line, depending on how you write your 7. And that is wisdom descending from heaven. That is the ray of light, or the ray of reason descending from heaven, but the 7. So you have the 2 7s. You combine them together, you get 14. And then you combine the 1 plus the 4, you get 5, which is the number of man, right? Divine man, the 5-pointed star. So these things, again, they're not coincidences. They come together in a very tight, neat package. And then Gemini is duality, but it's an interesting form of duality. It's a duality that is in some ways reconciled, because if you look at the symbol for Gemini, it's 2, but then you have the sort of the top and the bottom, which makes it look like a Doric column or something like that. So you could theoretically say that Gemini is Boaz and Jachin, right, the 2. But then if you look at the actual pictogram, it looks like 1 at the same time. The mystery of esotericism is in Gemini. So if you want to really drop down into this, just immerse yourself in Gemini, which is where we are now with Jupiter and Gemini, right? It's where we've been for about the last almost year and 2 months. We're almost out of it, shifting. It'll be an interesting shift. There'll be one more, I think, major push to soak up the energy, the expanded energy of duality in Gemini. So we have true node at 0 degrees, Aries. Chiron is in Pisces, I believe 11 degrees that day. And where are we now? We're Chiron in Pisces. So it's coming back. You know, it's a chironic return for the rite of spring. And it's interesting to note this because what I'm going to share with you gives you kind of an insight into the rite of spring and what was going on. It's divided into 13 movements. It's a very important number, 13. Death is the number 13, right? We know that. And I'm going to go through the movements of the rite of spring here. Number 1, you have the introduction, which is some of that music that I was playing at the beginning. The second movement is the augurs of spring, and this is the synopsis. The celebration of spring begins in the hills with pipers piping and young men telling fortunes. Isn't that interesting? Young men telling fortunes. Most of the time, it's women and old women that tell fortunes. But in the rite of spring, it's young men. So what we see here is we see young men that have the gift of prophecy. So there are 2 components to the male aspect in the rite of spring. It starts off in the beginning with young men telling fortunes, and as we'll go along, you'll see where it winds up. Number 3, movement 3, interestingly enough, it's called the ritual of abduction. An old woman enters and begins to foretell the future. Now we have the old woman come in. Young girls, excuse me, pollen time here. Young girls arrive from the river in single file. They begin the dance of abduction. Act 4, the spring rounds. The young girls dance the choravod, or the spring rounds. Number 5, movement 5, the ritual of the rival tribes. Here we go. Here comes Gemini. The people divide into 2 groups in opposition to each other and begin the ritual of the rival tribes. Interesting. Number 6, procession of the sage. A holy procession leads to the entry of the wise elders. You see, here we have duality and conflict, right? Here, at the beginning, it is primordial innocence. Spring begins in the hills with pipers piping and young men telling fortunes. Here comes the old woman. She's telling what's going to happen. She is the intrusion of experience. She's old, right? She's experienced. And then out of which they begin the dance of the abduction. And then there is a form of psychic and emotional displacement with the spring rounds. And then we have, out of the spring rounds, spinning out of that, out of what would seemingly be chaos, right? We have 2 camps divided, 2 tribes divided, the ritual of the rival tribes. Well, then guess what happens? In comes the procession of the wise elders, the sages. Ah, yes, we will take care of this. We will bring the rival tribes back together as one, headed by the sage who brings the games to a pause and blesses the earth. So there is a sage, one holy man, who I believe is in this personification the Maitreya. Act 7, the dance of the earth. The people break into a passionate dance, sanctifying and becoming one with the earth. Okay, so at that point in time, they're breaking from their rational consciousness, and they're losing themselves in the passion of the dance. I believe that this is a codified version of an orgy. I mean, I don't think that Stravinsky could, have people doing each other on stage at that time. I mean, it was Paris, but you can only go so far. So instead of actually portraying an orgy, there's this hint at a passionate dance with very tribal music that people are just cutting loose, and they're having an orgiastic ritual. Now, in comes the second part. The first part is called the adoration of the earth. Not the adoration of heaven, not the adoration of God, not the adoration of Christ Jesus, not the adoration of Mary. This is the adoration of the earth. So we're talking, this is a very pagan experience. Part 2 is the sacrifice. There's an introduction. And then the ninth movement is mystic circles of the young girls. The young girls engage in mysterious games, walking in circles. So what these girls are doing is they are essentially acting out another ritual so that they will be possessed, so that the spirits will enter them, and as a result, they would become chalices or vessels. And you'll see why. Act 10 or Movement 10, the glorification of the chosen one. One of the young girls is selected by, quote unquote, fate, being twice caught in the perpetual circle, and is honored as the chosen one with a marital dance. Now, why is she being honored with a marital dance? And who is she marrying? Interesting. Is she the Christ bride, or is she the bride of something else? Movement 11, evocation of the ancestors. At a brief dance, the young girls invoke the ancestors. So they're calling in spirits. That's who the ancestors are. They're spirits. In Movement 12, the ritual action of the ancestors. The chosen one, which is the young girl, is entrusted to the care of the old wise men. Now, what do you think is going on there? This maiden, this virgin, theoretically, right, has been chosen. She's been impregnated by a spirit and is now being given over to the old wise men. Well, what are they going to do with her? Movement 13. The chosen one dances to death in the presence of the old men in the great sacrificial dance. 13. So on one level, this girl is giving herself up for the continuity and the livelihood of the two tribes who will come together as one. Theoretically, that's one level. Another level is that through the dance of death, the ritual dance of death, the young girl represents, since we're dealing with Gemini here, two different modalities, right? On one level, she represents Christianity. And if these esoteric mages are in alignment with a different kind of mythology or a different kind of paradigm, they would be very interested or invested in ending the one that I'm sure they thought had been imprisoning humanity for 1,900 years. So she represents the naivete and the innocence of Christianity. Also, she's a virgin. She would be theoretically Mother Mary as well, and Mary Magdalene, all together in one being. So the sacrificial dance would be the sacrificial death or murder, even though it's not murder. She'd be doing it herself, even though there had been, who knows what went on with the old wise man. That she would then die, and with her would be the innocence and the ideal of the two Marys and the innocence and naivete of Christianity. But on another level, she would also be, since again we're dealing with Gemini, she would also be Sophia, who is wisdom, right? And that her death would then result in the transmission of gnosis to the great old wise men through this ritual sacrifice. Now, what happened in Paris that night is that people went nuts. I mean, absolutely nuts. They rioted. They'd never seen anything like it before. They rioted the theater. And the reviews were terrible and lambasted Stravinsky. Stravinsky didn't care. Would they have loved everybody to love their performance? Oh, I'm sure. But it was done for something else. It was done for an invocation of the times. Because what happens that year, 1913, is one of the most important years in the history of the planet. Because in 1913, we see the rise of the Federal Reserve, who would then ultimately make Federal Reserve notes, whom the same Nicholas Roerich, a few years later, would transform into a symbolic script for the rest of humanity. It's Nicholas Roerich, and he's involved in both of those things. And 1913 is the year where the Rite of Spring happens, and it's the year that the Federal Reserve kicks off. We also have federal taxation in 1913, and it's also really the beginning of World War I. Very important year, 1913. And the Rite of Spring invokes the energy of that year, and I believe invokes the energy of the entire 20th century. So it's a very important piece of history and culture and esoteric magic and culture as well. Here we are today on the 20th of April, celebrating the Rite of Spring in our own way and in our own lives. Nicholas Roerich eventually got in trouble. He got in hot water. He was doing some work for the United States government, and he was in China. I think he was in Mongolia and China. And what he was trying to do is he was trying to unite China, Mongolia, and other parts of Asia under one Buddhic kind of, governance. Because what they were trying to do at that time is they're trying to bring the world into a new world order. That's what they were trying to do. Well, They didn't do it quite then, but we're getting closer with each and every day, aren't we? And if you got my newsletter, you would see the interesting connection between Obama and Maitreya, which brings it all back to Nicholas Roerich and Benjamin Crane, all those characters. All right, it is 12:45 here in South Central Texas. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. It is the 20th of March, the first day of spring, the first day of Aries. I'm working on a piece on this for the website, along with some other things. Hopefully I'll have them up today. And hopefully we'll be able to do more writing on the website in the days to come. The Mercury retrograde and all that, the swamp of Pisces just got me down. And I'm ready to motivate. I'm ready to move forward. Are you? That's the question. Are you ready to move forward? How would you like to move forward? Now that we have all this energy in Aries, Mars in Aries, Sun in Aries, right? Mercury soon to follow. Are you ready to move forward? What's it look like for you? It is moving forward even doable in the times that we're in. I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, it's challenging out there. Some people are just hanging on, let alone moving forward. So can we activate our will? Can we do things? Can we get things done? Can we still pursue our dreams? Can we still pursue our goals? Can we still pursue our visions? Well, the world around us seems to be absolutely and utterly breaking down, whether it's a loan gone bad in Cyprus or some ritualized theater of human sacrifice in some part of this country or some other part of the world. There's a lot wrong. There's a lot going wrong out there, theoretically. So can we still have a foothold on our dreams and our visions and our goals? Can we address them? I would say undoubtedly the answer is yes. Because if you don't, you may as well just not get up in the morning. Just pull your head over the covers and not even get up. Now, the other part of that is that if the answer is yes, then what does yes look like? And it may look different than it did 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I was driving around with a friend yesterday and we were listening to William Orbit and listening to his music from the mid-90s. And the music was so together. It was so tight. The technology at that time, Orbit had really good technology. He had really incredible beats and samples, and everything was just so groovy and smooth and cool. It was like, there was almost like this pinnacle, this technological and spiritual pinnacle that I felt at that time was just right there. We had music by Deep Forest and Enigma and all these really kind of interesting people that were fusing beats with indigenous sounds and the sacred polyphony of the Gregorian chant. You had B-Tribe, who was doing the same thing with tango, flamenco. B-Tribe is flamenco, my bad. Flamenco and beats, and it was really, juicy time. There was money floating around. You had Clinton doing his thing, for better or worse. There was some real tragedy in the 90s, too. Don't get me wrong. With the John F. Kennedy Jr. event, there was the first explosion, probably more real in some ways than the second explosion at the Twin Towers with Ramzi Youssef, and then Flight 900. There were some things that went down in the 90s that were hard to watch. Waco was in the 90s. Randy Weaver was in the 90s. Oklahoma City was in the 90s. So it wasn't all just a bowl of punch with sangria in it. But there were some very good things about the 90s, too. Where are we now? It felt like in the 90s at that time that anything was possible. Really. There was an excitement in the air. There was enthusiasm in the air. The dot-com world was young. It was flush with cash. Music was great. It was going from 64-bit samplers to 128-bit samplers and beyond. Things were happening. In just a few short years, everything was shut down on 9/11/2001. And the world has not been the same since. It hasn't been the same since psychically. It hasn't been the same since materially. So the question of the day is, here we are with all this Aries. Can you still lead a life that is vital and important and intrinsic to you? And if so, what does it look like? How does it look now versus how it looked 15, 16 years ago? And what do we do with it? How do we affirm our purpose in a time where it seems like our options are being closed down and shut down, left, right, and center? I'm going to play a piece of music, and when I come back, we'll get into this, and I'm going to take a few calls. And if you're on the line, I see Lenice there. Don't go away. We'll get back to you. And we're going to start this dialogue. We're going to break open some astrology and see if we can chart the path to purpose through the individual chart over the course of the next hour or so. If you want to call in, 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. That's the number. And after our musical break, I'll be doing some reading. So if you're on the line, wait. If you're not on the line, hang in there. I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to play. Let me see if I can do this. See what I can find. I want to find. I've got some. I think this is Man Called Clay. Let's play this. I think this is Man Called Clay. And I'll be back in 4 minutes and 52 seconds. We'll do some live readings. This is Robert Phoenix. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. It is the first day of spring. It is Aries. And it is the dawn of a new day. That lovely piece of music was Umek from our good friend Man Called Clay, who I am going to have on the show here. We're going to talk about that track and others from his new record, Bringing, I-N-G, emphasis I-N-G. It is 1 o'clock here in South Central Texas. Coming to you live. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm Robert Phoenix. So why don't we just drop in with the Queen of Memphis and check in with our good friend Lenise. Here we go. Lenise?
Hey, Robert.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. You know, I'm healthy, and I have food in my refrigerator and a roof over my head and gas in my car that runs, and I got people that love me. So what more do I need, really?
Well, that is called blessed.
Yeah. So would I like more security? Absolutely. Would I like, more cushion? Damn right I would, but it's not what I have. So, just appreciate what I do have. Yeah?
It sounds like me.
I think we're all kind of there. And if we're not, then, even if you're not where we are, you got your own issues, trust me.
Yeah.
They're different. Once you get it, you got to hold on to it, and then that's a whole other beast that you got to wrestle with. So, what's going on with you?
Exactly. Well, a little bit of everything. I'm just trying to making an effort to be grateful in the condition that I'm in.
Yeah, it's a fine line, because I think being grateful is important.
Mhm.
And on the other hand, it's kind of like this whole strategy with the new Pope, who is here to usher in, I believe, a global austerity program for the 1.7 billion Catholics that are on the planet. And it's like, be grateful for being poor. Be grateful because Jesus was poor, but he was rich in spirit. And I think that there is also this misconception that that poverty is somehow related to godliness too. Mm. And at that point, it just becomes a mind game. So it's a fine line between being grateful for what you have and also being suckered into by not having very much, you're somehow okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's a dance. We're just doing our own dance. What else is going on in your life?
Oh, everything. I just wouldn't even know where to start. But I do have a birthday I'd like for you to check out.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Let's do a little astrology.
Yeah, March 2nd.
Okay, hold on. Let me get into I got so many windows open on my computer. I'm the mega window guy. Let me find the right, see if it's open here. Do I have any? Yes, there we go. Exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, March 2nd.
1962.
All right. Is this a potential love interest here, Lenise?
Yeah, it's the potential.
All right.
It's looking pretty good so far.
Okay, March 2nd?
1962.
1962. I just interviewed Hunt Sales, the son of Soupy Sales, bass player, drummer at South by Southwest, and his birthday's March 2nd.
Oh, wow.
But you were wondering where I was going with all that. All right. So you're a Cancer, right?
Yes.
What's your degree? What's your sun degree?
Oh, I forget. I don't remember.
What day were you born?
July 5th, 1963.
Okay, so you're going to have a sun-sun trine. Automatically, that's good, right?
Okay.
Cancer sun, Pisces sun, the water loves each other, but it's also going to be close. And your sun will be slightly ahead of his sun, which means that you would need to take the lead in the relationship, right? Because degree-wise, you're probably looking at, you say you're born the 6th, is that when you're born?
The 5th.
The 5th of July.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to be around 12, 13 degrees, and he's at 10 degrees. So, like, if you're walking together, your sun is ahead of his, right?
Okay.
So you would have to take the lead in the relationship. So if you're interested, you will have to nudge it along, and being that I've seen wonderful photos of your food on Facebook, maybe you could make dinner for this person.
I already did.
There you go. And how'd that go?
It was good. He'll just take anything I cook.
There you go. Perfect. He also has Venus in Pisces. I love Venus in Pisces.
Okay.
I think it's a great place for Venus. It's a very loving place. So his Venus at 17, again, is going to be trining your sun.
Wow.
So Venus sun trine, very nice. This guy's got a lot of Aquarius in his chart.
Yeah, I've heard.
A lot of air. He's got Mercury in Aquarius. He's bright. This fellow's bright. What does he do?
He is a manager, works with air freight.
Okay, air freight. So he's got Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter all in Aquarius. So how long have you known him?
Since Thanksgiving.
Okay. Over that time, has he shown you that he has some unusual beliefs or thoughts or ideas?
He's a little different. I haven't seen anything in specific. He's different.
Now, the one thing
He's
is
different from anyone I've ever met, or interacted with.
That would be the case because of the all that Aquarius. He would be, fairly eccentric in his own way, but also very bright. The one thing that I see here is he has a moon in Capricorn, and it's probably going to be opposite your sun. Now, that's challenging, but it can also be a good thing. Moon in Capricorn in an older person, I think, is actually a benefit, because people that have Moon in Capricorn, as they get older, they become much more okay with their emotions. And they can actually kind of trust emotionally. And that process of trust is something that they may not have experienced in their youth or teen years. So you could be catching this guy at a moment in time where he's becoming okay with his feelings.
Okay.
The other thing, too, is that when we get into the opposition, like with your sun, your Cancerian sun, that it could give that Capricornian moon of his some much needed water. So you could actually, not that you want to be his mother, but you could, at times have a maternal energy towards him that he would respond to with that Capricorn moon. It'd be the Cancerian water, the Cancerian warmth. I mean, based on what I've seen here, and without looking at your chart, I would, the Venus and the Sun trines are very, very prominent, very powerful. I would say that's a go.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. I want to get your take on it.
My take is good.
I gotta see what Robert says about this.
My take is good. He doesn't have a lot of Earth in his chart. Well, he's got Pluto and Virgo, but outside of that, it's the Moon in Capricorn. He's got Black Moon Lilith in Virgo at 13 degrees. I think that maybe he's looking for somebody like you, to be honest with you, because you, to me, I don't know you except for the time that we spend on the show and Facebook, but one of the things that I have always felt about you is that you have a certain type of purity and a certain type of innocence about your energy, which I really like. And with Black Moon Lilith, he's sort of in search for that. So you could theoretically conform to, his desire to, have this kind of, I wouldn't say virginal energy, but purity would be more the term. So, yeah, I would say it's worth.
I think he's feeling that. He's something to that effect.
Yeah. So I would keep the doors open and continue to cultivate this relationship. I think it would be good for you.
Well, it means a lot coming from you, Robert.
Well, if
I know you know what you're doing in your experience, and you're so good at what you do. So.
Well, if it looked to me like it would be super, super challenging for you, I'd tell you, like if he was an Aries and his sun was squaring your sun, I'd say, you may want to rethink this. But the Pisces sun and the Cancerian sun trining each other, that's a really good aspect. So, when's your next date?
Oh, it'll be soon, probably the weekend. We've done a lot in a short period of time. And we just go so well together, and everything runs smoothly. And then we have this telepathic communication between us. Right. It's so good that I think we need to talk a little more because, you know, it's like we're thinking and feeling the same things, and we just flow.
Yeah, that's the water. You use the word flow. That's a water. Now, if you were two air signs, it would be, we just fly together. We just take off and we just fly. We fly from this subject to this subject, but it's not. Use the water term. So, well, good, Lenise. I'm happy for you, and I hope that you continue to cultivate this relationship and it becomes an integral part of your life, because I think we all need connections in our lives.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
I saw your picture on Facebook. I said, there he is.
Oh, yeah, my picture. That wasn't even a really good picture of me. You know,
it's a little glimpse. You know, I feel so connected to you. It's like I want to see you.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I can see you. I said, well, that's a glimpse of it.
It wasn't a terrible picture, you know, so I thought I'll put it up there. What the heck?
I think you're really cute.
Oh, well, thanks, Lenise. And
I do. I just love you.
Well, what's interesting is the guy that's sitting next to me, that's Hunt Sales. Okay. And in that picture, and Hunt has been through a hell of a lot. I mean, that guy had heart surgery last year. He's gone through like major drug addiction, and he's about 4 or 5 years older than me. Even Hunt looks pretty good for what he's been through. So that was a cool night. Well, all right. Well, listen, you take care, okay?
Well, thanks for taking my call.
All right, you betcha. All right, bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Talk to you later.
It's our good friend Lenise, Queen of Memphis, checking in with us and putting her back on hold. 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. That's the number you want to call in if you want to get a little tune-up, a little astrological tune-up like Lenise just got. You know what I noticed? Today I was working on my piece for the Rite of Spring. So I was deeply immersed in that, and also, you know, dealing with people and the intensity of their lives. That was what was going on for me today. So I didn't have a chance to put the show up earlier. And I've noticed when I put the show up a couple hours earlier, there are more people waiting to call. And these are people that understand that the show is going to be on. So today I just put it up there about 10 minutes before the start of the show because I was so immersed in other things. I guess I need to do it earlier. That might be a good thing. On Friday, just to let you know, I'm going to be interviewing someone who will remain anonymous. And it's a person that I met about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago in San Francisco. And I'm not going to say anything more about this person, but she came to me and wants to share with me some deep inside information about what's happening with a major American corporation that she's a part of and how it is mirroring something that happened to her before. And we're going to get an insight into why corporations fail. Don't miss this interview on Friday. It's gonna flip your wig, and we'll unveil what goes on behind corporations when they decide to take on hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, and what the strategy is behind that, what the end game is behind that. Don't miss Friday's show. It's going to be very enlightening. All right, let's take another call. Hi, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, wow. Hi, Robert. It's Ann from Virginia Beach.
Hey, Ann. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just thought I'd call and see how everything's going with you and see if I can get any new insights.
Sure. Things are going pretty well. I mean, like I said with Lenise, I'm healthy, I'm dry, I'm warm, my car works.
Oh, that's awesome.
My kid loves me. I have food in the refrigerator. I have good friends, and, hopefully the rest will take care of itself as the future unfolds. So there you go. And now about you.
Yeah, that was a great picture on Facebook. I saw that last night.
Oh, you saw that, huh? Well,
yeah.
It was already up on Facebook. It was on another friend's page. So I thought, well, it's already up there. I may as well just put it up. What the heck? All right, Ann, let's get your info. Once again, I think I do somewhere, but let me just do this quickly here. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm just looking for one thing, basically. Am I going to get any new energy? Because everything I do doesn't work. So.
All right, and let me just see here. Is that May 1st?
Yeah.
57?
Yeah.
Sparta, Georgia?
No, not Georgia.
Greece?
Yes.
That's it. Okay. Isn't there a Sparta in Georgia?
There is.
There is, yeah. Okay. Energy.
Yeah.
You're looking for energy.
New energy.
New energy. Well, you've got that big, wide first house, right? So you've got Sun in your first house now changing signs. It's in the lower decan of your first house. Uranus is there. I mean, you're going to have the Sun crossing Uranus in your first house. If you're not going to get energy from the Sun crossing Uranus in the first house, I'm not sure when you're going to get energy, because that's going to be a blast and a half. Sun also tracking and beginning to trine your midheaven. That happens in April. So that's cool. The Sun midheaven trine. Then Sun trining Pluto towards the latter part of its stay in Aries. You've got Mars in the first house. You're going to have a Mars-Pluto trine by the time Mars is getting ready to move out of Aries. So the answer to your question would be absolutely yes. Major energy coming in your direction. And it would be, just do the ephemeris here. Hold on. All right, so we're going to get into the ephemeris. So for you, we want to look at that Mars-Pluto trine, and that's going to be happening in its exactitude. Let's see, come on, Mars, where'd you go? It's wrong here, sorry. I like 2012 so much I went back there to the ephemeris. Hold on. All right, so we're talking Mars, 29 degrees. That's going to be April.
Is that going to change my finances?
Finance as well. Energy-wise, if you have, so the thing with money, right? 27 degrees, it'll still be here. The thing with money, there's a couple different things with money that I know and understand. Okay. By the way, your finances, if you're going to get any boost in your finances, just as a result of astrological placement, it's going to be in May, because that's when the Sun moves into your second house, right? You have your solar return, Sun will hit Venus, Sun will hit Mercury, Sun will hit Moon. You get the Moon-Sun conjunction coming up. You've got Moon in the second house in Taurus. That's blessed. That's totally blessed. It's at 22 degrees. All those planets trine Jupiter in Virgo, pretty much, with the exception of your Sun. You've got Jupiter at 22 degrees Virgo. So when you have Sun conjuncting Venus, Sun conjuncting Mercury, Sun conjuncting Moon, trining Virgo, Jupiter in Virgo, if you just want the kind of, osmosis of the universe blessing you with abundance, that's the time, okay? It won't get, I mean, that's a peak period for you. Anytime that I had like the sun moving through my first house and then moving into my second house, which is December and January, for me in my chart, that's almost always the time I'm the most prosperous in however it comes to me, right? Whether it's through readings or people donating to my site or whatever, that time, that 2-month stretch is bang on. So you'll have some of that in May when the sun begins to move through there. So what you do with that energy at that time, that's up to you. So let's just say somewhere out of the blue, you do your taxes and you find out you're getting a refund. Or somewhere out of the blue, somebody who owes you some money decides that they got a little extra cash, you're going to do right, pay up. Or somewhere out of the blue, you know, it's just the second house with the sun trine Jupiter. Some of it can be attributed to work because your Jupiter's in Virgo, but some of it can just be attributed to just the cycles of astrology. I would say if you're looking for that, it's May. If you're looking for energy, it's May as well, but that's only because of Mars trining your natal Pluto and Leo. Now, for you, and I should do this thing on Jupiter, if we look at prosperity, we look at abundance, we look at money, Jupiter is the key, okay? And the different expressions of Jupiter designate both by sign and by placement where we will get money and how we will get it. That's the abundance piece. You have Jupiter in Virgo. In order for you to access abundance or money, unfortunately, you have to work. Okay, that's Virgo. If you work, if you will tend to the needs of others, if you will be engaged in active service, if you're able to find all of that or do all of that and find the proper job or vocation that allows you to do that, then you're doubly blessed. And guess what? Jupiter becomes activated. It becomes activated at that point. Now you have Jupiter working in your favor, and that's when the money comes. So those are if you want money long term, beyond a transit in the second house, that's what you have to do. And your Jupiter in Virgo is a very healing and very diagnostic kind of energy. Now, in order for you to really make it zing and work, you need to work with somebody. You need to work with a partner. So let's just say, for instance, I'm just throwing it out there. Let's just say you decided you wanted to become a healer, or let's just say you had your healing capacities turned on, or you got certified in something. Well, the way that you would be the most effective is that if you went into partnership with somebody else, and that would be, so let's just say out of the blue, you were a chiropractor, right? Jupiter and Virgo, I want to be a chiropractor, I'm going to crack backs, got all that Taurus structural. By the way, if you're not a chiropractor, I don't think you are, that would have been actually a very good thing for you to do with your chart. But let's just say you were, then you would look around and say, well, here's Joe over here, and Joe's an acupuncturist. Maybe I need to start a little thing with Joe. So Joe can take care of the acupuncture, I can take care of the chiropractor. With the 7th house, Joe and I make it all fit and work together. That's how you access the long-term capacity for you to make money with that Virgo. Is that you need to work, and it's got to be within those areas that I was talking about: health, healing, service, unto others, finding your sweet spot in terms of your own vocation and your own purpose, marrying it with some of those other aspects or vocations. And once you do that, what happens? Then it activates your Venus, it activates your Mercury, it activates your Moon, all second house, all loaded in Taurus. One of the things that you have to watch out for, though, with that second house, especially with the Neptune opposition, you've got to watch out for get-rich-quick schemes. You've got to watch out for people leaning on you too much, playing on your sympathies, wanting too much of your money, too much of your time, whatever those things are. Now, you can still be inspired by Neptune in the 8th house in terms of its depth, in terms of setting intention, but at the end of the day, for you to make money and to have it sustained over a long period of time, you've got to work that Virgo. You've got to work that Jupiter.
Okay.
You don't sound too happy.
No, I don't want to work. When I worked, I made a ton of money, but I'm tired of working.
Well, that's your Jupiter, right? So maybe the key for you is to find somebody else that does work and to back them, right? And to, you know, to promote them or to support them. So they're the ones that are working. You've got that Jupiter Saturn square going on in your chart. I can see why you wouldn't want to work. So maybe if somebody else does the work and you do the masterminding in any way, shape, or form, you would be it would benefit you to work in concert with someone. So maybe it's not work that you're doing. Maybe it's work somebody else is doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll listen to this again.
Okay.
Because I'm in a financial slump, and I don't like it.
Well, don't take it personally, because I can tell you about 6 people right off the top of my head that are in financial slumps.
I am taking it personally. It's making me crazy because I'm not used to it, so it's about to make me totally crazy.
All right. Well, okay, then activate that Jupiter, and you know, and I hate to say it, but you know, work.
Get a job.
Work with a purpose. Okay, work with a purpose.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ann. Thanks for calling in. And
thank you so much.
I will be sending you your 6-month transit chart today. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Robert. You take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Let's go to the 208. Hi, you're on the air with Robert.
Hi, Robert. This is the gardener, and I'm calling to update you on all your advice you gave me from the last call. Thank you so much, and I do love that picture of you on Facebook with your shirt.
My tribute to the 60s. That sure was
yeah, that was a very nice patterning in the 60s. I'm glad to see it come back. It was very nice. It always makes it look like it was corduroy or something.
That shirt was popular that night. So it was a good night to wear that shirt.
Yeah, I used to go out, I would go out with guys just because of their shirts.
I think that, it's almost as good as any other reason to go out with a guy.
Yeah, really good shirts.
The really good shirts.
Does it for the women. We like the good shirts, the nice shirts.
It's true. All right, what's up with you?
Well, I've been in this nightmare for 7 years.
Yep.
And after 2.5 years, I found out today I got some very crappy correspondence on Monday sent before Mercury went direct while it was still retrograde.
Okay.
And it's all flipped on its head. It was erroneous. It's being dealt with, threatening legal letters. But anyway, after 2.5 years, a major bank is having a board meeting to try to resolve my major issue. So it's taken 2.5 years. Finally, a month ago, something clicked in that caused them, the executive level, to have a board meeting.
Wow.
About my massive crimes, thefts, all related with the title agent of my property deal.
Wow. So this could be a good thing.
Well, I called her this morning to give her more information, and she said, well, we were going to have the board meeting yesterday about your problem, but we're having it today. And I said, great, here's more data for the board's information. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a difference. They auctioned my property off totally, the illegalities I've experienced and the buffoonery of almost everybody that used to be considered professionals has blown my mind.
Right.
And so it has been turning around. My heart is open. It's like it doesn't matter. I whatever comes down, I will deal with it.
Well, good.
Happily.
Good. That's good. It's the best way to be, right? I mean, it's hard. It's a hard place to be, but
it is.
Good for you.
No, you helped me, and I was working on it, opening my heart and acceptance, and I'll still do everything I can for what's right and against what's wrong, and I have. And it's caused a lot of friction in my household. We've been under threat monthly now for 2.5 years, actually about 6 years, of our this property and business and stuff in it. So I've been destituted, and I'm wondering if you can see anything coming my way.
Let's find out. Money is
a resolution. I mean, this is a big, huge resolution. This is based on a lot of different agencies involving. I did incorporate my senator. People do it. They've got staff. Mine's got 4 offices in Idaho, fully staffed. They've been any federal issue, they've been a huge help.
Well, that's good. Because sometimes at a state level, you can actually get some people that will respond to you.
Yeah, I spoke. Some of my favorite people professionally have been through the IRS. The Department of Finance in Idaho has been wonderful crew, very professional. That's all I've ever expected or looked for in any civil servant. The unprofessionalism in the legal real estate realm is unbelievable. Bad.
When's your birthday again?
2/27/1956.
Okay. Let me see. I'm just going to go to your solar chart here. 2/27/56. So resolution. What do we have here? Resolution. All right. I would say that, you've got your moon at 9 degrees Capricorn. Black Moon Lilith, 9 degrees Capricorn. So Pluto transiting your Black Moon Lilith, I think, is interesting. Because to me, Capricorn is obviously the bureaucracy, right?
Right.
I mean, it's the corporatocracy, and in some ways, the corporatocracy has forced you to become more aware. I wouldn't say strident, but more aware, more active. You've had to kind of like take on their own sort of genome in some ways in order to fight for what you believe in and push back. And that may have been something that you had at some point rejected or denied as part of your overall pattern. So in a lot of ways, I would see what you've been going through as a initiation of sorts. It's kind of like, like when I was a kid, I had kind of a rough childhood, and I had a father who I loved dearly, but he was kind of messed up in some pretty significant ways. And I didn't know if he would be Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. And sometimes when he was Mr. Hyde, it was a little hairy, and and as a result of that, I had to get used to dealing with extreme personalities. I had to get used to dealing with violence. I mean, there were a lot of things that, as a kid, I probably shouldn't have had to experience.
Right.
But I did, right? And it helped me become, who I am today. So I can deal with a lot of things that other people can't necessarily deal with, because I dealt with them when I was young and worked through a lot of them. So the same thing here might actually persist for you or exist for you, only it's a little different, and what you've been going through has been an initiation for you in order for you to get in touch with this Capricornian, beyond survival energy, Capricornian in the sense that you can really take charge or take control and kind of reclaim your own destiny and create the kind of world that you want to live in. And do it in a way that other people can resonate with it and be kind of in tune with it. And what I think with Pluto crossing Black Moon Lilith, to me, that's a kind of resolution, because I feel like there's some integration there that takes place. And Pluto is an energy astrologically that I think cauterizes. It's a seal. Pluto goes over something, it seals something, either for better or worse. So that's my sense here. And of course, Pluto is very close to being there now so let me just check, at 9 degrees. So you could be experiencing this like post-haste. Let's just go there right now. We're at March. Pluto's at 11, so it's okay. So here's what I think. Pluto goes retrograde. It goes back to 9 in July. And it's the final pass over your Black Moon Lilith.
Oh.
So July, it goes to, I'm sorry, take that back. The final pass is when it goes direct one last time at that point. And that is in the lead up to the big T-square, the 9-9 degree T-square, which happens in October, November. So that's the final pass, but in July, you're going to have one more 9 degree right on your Black Moon Lilith. I feel like that there's resolution in that for you. And the other piece is that where'd you go? Just had you. Was Uranus. Hold on, 56. I'm just operating off the solar chart here, so let's see, 56 is here. Okay, and then we got 227. Yeah, so Uranus, 28 degrees. Sun moving across your Uranus. Jupiter doesn't get there. Jupiter gets to 20 degrees. It's a wide conjunction. But that, to me, that could also be really
and they're both in my second house.
Yeah, really empowering. So the Jupiter transit through Cancer, I think, is a good thing for you. Really good.
Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting it to get out of Gemini, and it's opposing my son's 13-degree Sag sun.
Right.
And Mercury.
Yeah.
So, he's going through a lot of stress with all of this, and he doesn't care what mountains I move because, the mountains are our home.
Right. He wants a normal life. He wants security and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's been really rugged on our relationship. A lot of times, for some reason, I equate with being Madeline Murray O'Hare and, the atheist, of which I'm not, but the impact her activism had on her children.
Yeah, that would be the Black Moon Lilith, too, in Capricorn as well, right?
Is it?
Yeah, because that would be...
I've never gotten into that before.
Yeah, why don't you study it a little bit, study up on it, because in Capricorn, Black Moon Lilith would be the aspect of your maternity that you're not necessarily also aware of, So,
right.
Yeah, study that.
Well, interestingly, that if it's at 9 Cap, that's right between my now dead husband, who is still, he's been gone for 4 years, but he's still a major part of my life. And he was an 8-degree Cap with a 10-degree Mercury.
Right.
And so it falls right between those two major power centers of his being. And he's still very active. Wherever he's at, he's with me all the time.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And yes, and he was a total bean counting. I like the ledgers to match up. If someone's throwing out numbers to me, I do like them all to correlate and match up and make sense and be consistent. And I truly appreciate Capricornian organization.
So there you go.
And so, yeah, that's what I'm having big issues with all these people. There might be 4 sets of numbers, none of them correlating, none of them really valid.
Right.
But, it's like, believe it or not, I pay attention to these things. I don't like that.
Yeah.
And they're startled. They keep continually being, these are huge factions of banking people and lawyers and courts, and they've been startled that I pay attention, notice these things, and that they don't notice them, and they don't,
well, they
blow it off.
They're all there for you, right? They're all there for you. Think about that. I mean, they are there for you to learn and to reflect something back to you, and you're creating them in your own life on one level, and on another level, they have their own interesting kind of unique relationship with what's going on with you. So So like I said, this is some form of initiation that you're going through to learn something from this experience. And I think once you get it, once you learn it, once you figure it out, then all of a sudden it will go away. It will just go away. It will just evaporate.
Well, it seems like it's going to. The more I get detached from it, the more it's getting resolved.
Yeah, and what will happen when it does get resolved? What will you do then? Well, I mean, think of the freedom you'll have at that point.
Right. Well, you and my brother are both incredibly good counselors, especially for people like me in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been casting that out wildly and widely. And in this, I do believe we can still turn this around individually, which will then become community or consensus with creativity, creative actions. We will be discovering things, or our kids will be, that we don't know anything about. They don't exist yet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Will pull us out of this black hole with these like dead souls running things,
right?
The anti-life dead souls, that we're right at this weird pivot point or pinnacle. I saw somebody say that on your chat. Yeah, we're at the pinnacle, and that's an exhausting time. We're almost at the top, or we're at the top, to slide back down or get beat back down.
Yeah.
And it just takes a few more good shoves and pulling each other up that's falling or sliding. And we can, it is very consistent with the music, is always a good indicator of the creative consciousness of the mass people.
Right.
And I don't even, now having a teenager, I listen to a lot of contemporary music, but what I noticed, my son sings in the chorus at school, the chorale. They had a performance where people were weeping.
Mm-hmm.
They had so much soul and connectedness. They were so comfortable with singing.
Right.
And the big choral was like 40 people, 40 kids.
Right.
And it was that I was so happy to see these soul-filled teenagers.
Yeah.
And singing these, Bridge Over Troubled Water. That just, it was, they nailed it. It was wonderful.
Cool.
So it's like, I'm not giving up on the kids.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for myself and everyone else that hasn't had the opportunity to fight them back.
Right.
In technical ways. And, it's hard when it's your kid and it's nothing but, scary stuff going on. But hopefully we'll slay these dragons that are doing the most criminally illegal things.
Yeah.
And then have the nerve to tell me, about karma.
Right.
Or spiritual advice,
Right.
It's pretty shocking. The behaviors. But, Black Moon Lilith, I will get into her at 9 degrees Capricorn.
There you go. Well, thank you for calling in, and hang in there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm at a huge resolution point.
Yeah,
and I didn't know about it till today, so
well, good.
I'm glad to hear it.
We're all rooting for you, okay?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Good
Bye,
deal.
Gardner.
Thank you, Robert. Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's go here. We've only got 20 minutes left, so let's kind of burn through the readings here. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
Susan?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. What's going on?
Oh, wow. I was surfing the internet and just listening, and I didn't expect you to pick up.
Well, just dealing with some business. What can I say?
Okay, well, I guess it's fate then.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. It's a good day. There are no chemtrails in the sky today.
That's a good thing.
We had a massive storm last night. Thunder, lightning, 2 types of lightning. We had sheet lightning, we had finger lightning, we had the massive downpour, now it's all sunny, so that's pretty cool. I like that.
Nice
Yeah.
for first day of spring.
It is, and it's like there's an I-ching hexagram called After the Storm or something like that. It's about the cleansing of the air after the storm. So what's going on with you? Do you want me to look at anything, or do you just listen in? What's your story?
Well, I'm here, so I guess I'll have you look at my chart. That would be great.
I think I might have you still in my data banks. Let me just check here. Hold on. See if I can find you. Here. And here. And all right. Let's see what we got here. I don't know if I have you. Let's see. August 30th, 54?
No. January 2nd, 1968.
Different Susan. Hold on. All right. January 2nd, 1968. There you are. Bang. All right. Okay, so you're kind of a student of astrology, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you working on, or what do you want me to?
Let's go with career. I had a reading with you, I don't know, like a month ago, and we talked about that. And you said that I should be on the lookout for maybe a local newspaper or an online publication to write for. Yeah. And I did submit some writing samples and an application to an online magazine, but I haven't heard anything yet. So. Well,
it's been Mercury retrograde, right? So
right.
You're probably gonna. When did you submit?
When?
Yeah.
Let's see. It's probably like the 3rd week in February. Yeah, it was right after Valentine's Day, the week after. So, I don't know, sometime around the 21st of February.
Okay, all right. So it won't go back that far. Let's see. So 21st of February. So it would be like we're at the beginning of Pisces, right? Is that what we're talking about? So.
Yeah.
I would wait a little bit and wait for Mercury to catch up to when it went actually retrograde the first time, and then I would send them a reminder or just say, hey, just checking back in with you. But I also would not stop there. I would continue to try to find more, more opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And also, because you've got Sag up there in the 9th house of publishing, I think you also need to look into self-publishing as well, and to try to find, learn more about self-publishing. Learn more about ebooks or singles, e-loads, anything that you can do to broaden your knowledge base around self-publishing. Not necessarily for you to self-publish, although you could, but the more knowledge you have or the more information you have, I think the better off you'll be for any future discussions that you'll have with people in terms of the writing. So while you're waiting to hear back, do some studying, okay? You won't get up to the state of the art of internet publishing, because it can go a couple different ways. It gives you a knowledge base that you can use with other people, but it could also empower you as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and then of course, the big news for you is, Pluto on your sun coming, right?
Yeah.
That's a big one, and I think it's going to be really positive, super positive, and it could be an absolute and utter transformation in terms of what you do for a living almost overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm on the lookout.
So but what you want to do is you want to keep it happening, right? So don't stop with just one online publisher. Astrology is a wave. I mean, when you have planets when you have big planets coming to hit your personal planets, it's going to be on your sun for a while, but you want to be able to catch that wave. So you want to be able to you want to just have as many options out there for yourself, so that when Pluto does hit, you're like, bang, all right, I get this. I get it. I'm feeling it. I've got an opportunity now. I've got more than one opportunity, as a matter of fact. This opportunity can change my life overnight. The other thing, too, is, and you may not necessarily like this, but this is just an intuitive sense I'm picking up on now. I'm not even looking at your chart. There are other opportunities available to you through online publishing or online magazines, through the selling of advertising. Believe it or not, I'm picking this up. And that occasionally the advertising jobs can lead to copy jobs. Not always, but sometimes they can if you have to write your own copy for the ads. So don't shut yourself off from potentially doing ad sales if it's the right publication. It's something that you like, a product that you like. You could actually do quite well at it. I'm being shown here. So it gets you in that realm, and that you could potentially write as well. But it's kind of like, it's not really a back door. It's like a side door. Okay, so keep your eyes open for something like that.
Okay, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm here to do.
All right, cool.
All right, so is that it?
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you.
Right, so I'm going to put you back on hold, and then we'll take one more call. Thanks for calling in, okay?
Thanks, Robert.
Okay,
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, that's our friend, Susan. Let's see if we can just burn through a couple more here really quickly. Hello, you're on the air with Robert.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Hey, Robert, this is Sandra. How are you doing?
Hey, Sandra. What's going on, cuz?
Oh, just I'm hoping and praying there's a little time this afternoon maybe to throw the i-ching and do some meditation. Hubby's doing well from the hospital. I don't need you to look at anything on my chart right now or anything, dear. I just would like to reiterate rather quickly that you most definitely do make a difference in this world for good. It's a significant difference. I want you to know this. And, I had written you that this morning, and then you get on here and say you had just a whole, a barrage of serious things coming your way. You're just a beautiful soul that plants seeds. Here we are at spring, that will bear fruit and plants and so on and so forth. Maybe later, but they will grow. And you're doing a wonderful, wonderful job. Just never stop being here for us. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Sandra. That's really sweet of you, And I'm trying to figure out what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing this. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. So it
doesn't matter.
Well, it's like I kind of got to do it. I kind of got to do it in some ways,
That's right. You're where you're supposed to be doing what you are supposed to be doing, and thank goodness for this. But you have a great day, and thanks again for everything.
Well, thank you, Sandra. I really appreciate you calling in. It's very nice to hear your voice, as always, truly.
Okay. Thank you. And you have a good day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's our good friend Sandra calling us from Indianapolis. All right. Too bad, 530. You jumped off the line there. I was going to get to you. Man, that's the way it goes. These things happen that way. All right, so it looks like we've reached the end of the show today. Turned out nicely, don't you think? I think it did. Join me on Friday. And I can't really tell you who my guest is because my guest is a whistleblower. It's the first whistleblower I've ever interviewed. And it's not some major kind of, esoteric, MK Ultra super soldier kind of whistleblowing. We're going to get a look, a real naked and raw look about what goes behind the scenes with corporate America at a high level in terms of finance and the deconstruction of Fortune 500 companies. These are planned demolitions that take place. And we're going to look into that. We're going to get a behind-the-scenes look from my friend who has experienced this not just once but twice now in the corporate world. It should be very, very interesting. And who knows who else will be joining me on Friday. Don't miss that show. It's going to be, I think, really enlightening. All right, so thank you, everybody who called in. Really appreciate your presence, because without you, there would be no show. It would just be me talking and nobody listening. So appreciate that. All right, so you know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. You've been listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm Robert Phoenix. I have been your host for the day. And you can find me at Facebook, Twitter. I'm Robert Phoenix Dude Max. Don't ask me why I have that name. And also my website, robertphoenix.com, with a new post going up today. Hopefully today. If not today, then tomorrow. All right. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open what's possible. I'll see you on Friday.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.